What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. So we got a Baro tier list and review for the Tennocon Super Baro for 2024. We're going to be going over basically every single item that Baro can bring, and I'll be telling you if I think it's important or worth having from this upcoming Baro. If you bought the Tennocon ticket, you will have access to the 2024 Tennocon Relay from July 20th until July 27th. And yes, this Baro tier has literally everything that he can bring. So we're going to be reviewing all the non-cosmetic stuff, basically, and saying, is it good, is it bad, is it even remotely worth considering? That's going to be the idea of today's video, so let's get right into it. But before we do, make sure you're subbed to this channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads, and we're also live on stream right now making this list. So if you want to come stop by when we're making these kinds of videos, it might be kind of fun for you. Let's get right into it because we got a lot to talk about today. Now, this tier list, I did not make this entirely, and it was not updated since 2022, but I did add a couple of the new things on here, okay? So there might be some duplicates, there might be some things that are missed, but for the most part, we have like pretty much everything that's worth buying from Baro on this list, okay? And our tiers are going to be must-have, nice-to-have, mastery/collector items, which might as well still be must-have if you want maximum mastery, farmable elsewhere, because a lot of these things can be farmed elsewhere in-game, over-prepared, because it's like, I could technically put them on must-have, but only if you want to be over-prepared against every faction. And then bad/cosmetics. Because I didn't make this list. Some of these on here are cosmetics that I probably wouldn't put on these in the first place. So let's get right into it with the first item. We got full contact for shotguns giving impact damage. Now this one does drop from Eidolon fights on Earth, so you definitely don't need to buy it from Baro. It's not a good mod either, so we definitely don't want this one. It's farmable elsewhere, but you could also just put it in bad tier because no one's ever using that mod. But yeah, it is farmable elsewhere, so I'll put it in the proper tier here. Moving on to Prime Smite Grenier. This one, it could definitely be an over-prepared tier, but I'm actually going to put it in nice-to-have tier because I wouldn't say that you're over-prepared for having this. I'd say that you are actually just the right level of prepared because the Grenier are one of the main enemy factions of this game, and for missions like Void Cascade and Kufa Survival, that's the main enemies you're fighting there. Additionally, Smite mods apply twice to slash procs, and that's really good because the Grenier have armor and slash procs bypass armor, so very, very powerful there. It's a great mod to have. It's actually better than over-prepared tier because the Grenier are so prominent in this game. So yeah, Prime Smite Grenier, great on things like the Glaive, great on things like the Hate Incarnon, Scythe, anything with a slash proc or a DOT proc, basically. And good for melee influence for that matter. So yeah, definitely a nice one to have. Although the other faction one probably won't be as important. Probably the other faction one's in over-prepared tier, at least for melees. Now the next mod here, we've got Prime Pistol Gambit. I'm going to go ahead and put this one in must-have tier. Now, technically, you could say it's in nice-to-have tier because there's a corrupted version of this that gives you a little bit more crit chance, but also reduces your fire rate, and that's not good because that's less DPS. But thankfully, we have a mod called Semi-Pistol Cannonade nowadays that capture or makes your fire rate unable to be modified. So that can be kind of a nice combination together. But yeah, for a situation where you don't want any downsides at all and more versatile builds, Prime Pistol Gambit's going to be one of your best bets, and this is going to be the first mod in must-have tier. Another mod that's to go into must-have tier is going to be the Prime Fever Strike mod. This is for melees that gives you a huge chunk of toxin damage. It's actually the most toxin damage you can get from one mod the entire game. And yeah, it's very strong. It has a lot of mod drain for a reason. This thing is extremely powerful, and if you're using like a corrosive build or like a gas build or a viral build, this mod will be likely on the build to combine into that. So I'd highly recommend it. Technically, you can do like a 60-60 mod if you prefer to do that and not have to buy this. But for the maximum damage, like for Korra Stat Stick, for example, you want to have this for the most damage possible. Prime Fever Strike. Moving on to some mastery fodder stuff, we got the Prisma Gorgon. Now, I actually do like the Prisma Gorgon, but I can't justify saying it's actually like a must-have or a nice-to-have. It's an Incarnon, technically, and maybe the fact that it's Incarnon would make it go a little bit higher up. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's an impact-focused auto rifle. It has a nice augment mod called Metamorphic Magazine that can petrify bosses and enemies. But if DE ever remembers to remove that, working on bosses, it will probably not be as important. But yeah, you could like use it like the Plague Star boss to petrify it in place and other things too. With the augment. If you don't have the augment, which came out like multiple Nightmare seasons ago, this is a generic auto rifle. The Incarnon forms a delayed explosion fire machine gun, which is pretty good, but yeah, it's not as good as like the burst in an actual like top tier Incarnon. So I'm gonna put it in mastery fodder tier right now. Another mastery fodder weapon, we have the Machete, Prisma Machete. There's also a Machete Wraith on here too. I'm going to just go ahead and put both of them on the mastery/collector items tier. Not saying you can't use a machete to kill level 10,000 enemies. I think I've done it before with the Slatra. But yeah, it's just a machete. I mean, I could put the Prova on there too. Anything involving machetes, probably going to go on this tier because that's all the machetes he's got. He's got like 3 different machetes. And yeah, they're just generic melee weapons. They got good slash procs on heavy. But, I mean, you can say that for a lot of weapons in the Warframe in 2024. So I'd say go ahead and put this all on the Mastery Fodder / Collector tier. A lot of these weapons will be on there, unless they're really, really good, like some of them are. Prime Point Blank. Now, as much as I would like to put this on the must-have tier, I can't really do it in good conscience in 2024, as we are so power-crept nowadays. There is a mod called Galvanized Aptitude that gives you tons and tons of base damage after you get a couple kills. This one's always going to be active, so that's great, but I'm going to still put it on nice-to-have tier, as in 2024, I think you could definitely get away with not having Prime Point Blank maxed out if you have Galvanized mods. If you could definitely argue it's a must-have because it is prime base damage, but also, yeah, we have Galvanized mods, so for me, it's still good, but not as high. Another one on the nice-to-have tier is going to be Prime Bane of the Grenier for rifles. Now, why is this one good? Because the arbitration meta in this game is to use the Kuva Ogress with Nightwatch Napalm. So any primed Bane of the whatever for rifles will become instantly either nice-to-have tier or must-have tier, because if you are meta farming Vitus Essence, you're going to need this mod, because it makes the Nightwatch Napalm do a lot more damage to Grenier. And yeah, it's just good for anything that you're using endurance runs with your primary is going to be focused on like heat procs or whatever. Prime Bane of the Grenier will help you out a ton. Not exactly needed because you're fighting Thrax a lot of the time and Corrupted too. But yeah, if you are doing a mainly Grenier mission, this is a very, very nice mod. And especially for things like the Ogress too. First weapon that's not going to be in Mastery tier will be above. This is going to be the Quanta Vandal. This thing is a nice-to-have tier. It is a very, very powerful single-target electric beam weapon. It has a cube launcher, too, that has some AoE on it, but it's not really the main focus. The main focus here is a crazy good electric status beam that can actually have some pretty good hybrid viability with high crit as well. I highly recommend this for endurance runs. I use it in Ivara. I've used it on other frames, too, like Zephyr. But yeah, it's just really, really good if you want to do some high-level missions to take out Steel Path enemies. Not really that excited beyond that. It's kind of single-target. And the cube launcher just leaves a lot to be desired, so yeah. I'd recommend getting it, but also, like, if you have some other good single-target weapons, you might not need to use it too much. Alright, first one going in bad tier, we got Combo Killer. It's one of those glaive mods that just each of a mod slot and does a bunch of random stuff. So if you can read what that little tiny text says, plus 5 seconds of combo duration, on kill secondary weapon resets the combo timer. I'm sure you can find some niche things to do there, but it's taking up a mod slot on your melee, and you don't want that in the first place. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in bad tier. Of course, it's probably not that much ducats to buy it if you want to try it out, but yeah. All right, moving on to must-have tier with the Ignis Wraith. Now it's kind of hard to decide if I want to put Ignis Wraith in must-have tier or nice-to-have tier. I think I'm gonna put it in must-have tier because, you know, it is technically the place. Okay, how about this actually? From Baro, it's not worth getting. But from your clan dojo, you can get it for like a couple, I think it's like credits in your dojo, clan dojo. But yeah, buying this from Baro, I think only on Switch you have to do this, but might not be the case anymore. Either way, this weapon is really good. It's a crit flamethrower. It's actually farmable elsewhere. I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna change this from nice to have to farmable elsewhere, because you can get this from your clan dojo. I think you can't get it from trading anymore. But yeah, clan dojos, you can get this. You can actually get to drop in Railjack too. It's nice to have the weapon, but it's definitely farmable elsewhere, and I would not recommend buying it from Baro from Alt as the place to get it. But yeah, very nice weapon at the end of the day. Moving on to Prime Expel Corpus, we're going to put this in over-prepared tier right here. This is going to be for people who want every little bit of damage against a faction that's not exactly the most played against. Prime Expel Corpus, going to be giving you a ton of extra damage to Corpus. Not really, I don't really use it that much, I'm going to be honest. The Corpus are usually pretty easy to kill. And as far as min-maxing, like slash procs are going to be, their shield regen stops them. It's good against toxin procs technically, but yeah, it's not really a must-have unless you're like trying to use a Serrata for level 10,000. But at that point, you could probably one-shot them anyway at level 10,000 with the Serrata. So Serrata's that good against Corpus. I'll put it in over-prepared tier if you want to have everything in the entire game maxed out. Actually, this is for pistols, so that wouldn't work with Serrata. For pistols, you want to be one-shot in level 10,000 Corpus, I guess, but it's really not that hard to do that in the first place. Over-prepared tier for the first one on that one. Prime Continuity, to go ahead and put this on must-have tier. I know that there is a mod in the game called Archon Continuity that gives you the same stats, basically. That one is more mod drain. That one requires the Veilbreaker quest and requires a lot of grinding out Veilbreaker missions. So I'd say get Prime Continuity, as is one of the best mods in the game. Gives you tons of extra duration. It is actually the first item that Baro Katir ever brought when Baro Katir first showed up in like 2016. And it's still used to this day. So yeah, must-have mod for Prime Continuity. Tons and tons of duration. Primed Heated Charge, very nice to have. Maybe even not must-have tier. The main reason I don't put it on must-have tier is because, like, yeah, for the most damage possible, it could be nice. But at the end of the day, it's just usually people are doing like a corrosive heat build. This is getting thrown as the third elemental mod. You got like, electric, toxin, and then heat. That makes the heat weighting really high, which is good, but also you could just do a 60-60 heat mod and get a similar effect. So it's nice to have, but I wouldn't call it must-have, as you can technically replace it with like Scorch or whatever it's called. But yeah, it's really, for optimal damage, it is very nice. Now moving on to the over-prepared tier, we got Prime Smite the Infested, giving increased melee damage, or increased damage against Infested with melees. The Infested are pretty easy to kill, so I'm going to go ahead and put that down there, as the Arbitration meta is not used with melees. But for this one, Prime Bane of the Infested, I'm going to go ahead and put that on nice-to-have tier, because if you're trying to run meta Arby's, Prime Bane of the Infested with rifles will work on your Kuva Ogress, helping you burn the enemies very, very reliably. Now, thankfully, they're not that hard to kill, but yeah, the more damage, the better in arbitrations, as the faster you kill stuff, the more loot you're going to get. Prisma Twin Gremlin's going to be going to the Mastery Fodder tier. They're like some full-auto nail guns with pretty good stats, but nobody really uses them because there's so many better pistols in this game. It's pretty much just Mastery Fodder, although they are maybe a little bit better than Mastery Fodder. Moving on to Prime Chamber. This is definitely a collector item. I'm not going to call it Mastery Fodder, but yeah, I believe this costs like thousands of ducats, and it gives you increased bonus damage on the last shot in your magazine. So very good on like the Vectis Prime with like minus magazine or stuff like that. But man, it's a collector's item. It's stupid expensive because it's funny, apparently. It's mainly just going to be a collector item if you want to have every little bit of sniper damage and just have an expensive mod in your inventory equipped. Yeah, definitely more of a collector item than anything actually useful in the game. Moving on to Prime Smite Corrupted for melees. Definitely an over-prepared tier. Now, there are plenty of corrupted missions that get pretty high level in this game, but at the end of the day, you could probably kill them without this mod anyway, so not really needed. Prime Shard Shell. Nice to have, not needed. Because again, a lot of these things can be replaced with other mods. If you want the most corrosive damage possible, you got Prime Shard Shell for like huge electric damage, combining into corrosive. But again, not a must-have, but nice to have for sure. I use this mod sometimes. It's 16 mod drain, and shotgun builds can be pretty intensive with the mod drain, so be very careful about that when you're formatting your shotgun. Yeah, a nice mod either way. Volcanic Edge, I believe this is farmable elsewhere. I think it comes from Spy Vaults, so you don't really need that. It's a good mod, but yeah, you don't need to get it from Baro. Same with Fang Fusillade. Fang Fusillade comes from Eidolon fights, so you don't need to get it from Baro, getting increased slash damage on your rifles. Prime Pistol Enemy Mutation. It's definitely an over-prepared tier. I've used it sometimes. It's good on like the Twin Comac and probably some other stuff too, but it's not really needed. It's not like a must-have mod in the slightest. It's not even that nice to have. It's just a over-prepared kind of thing where, okay, well, if I pick up ammo, my pistol will get ammo back. That's all it really does. So if that sounds super important to you, maybe move up a tier, but for me, it's not going up a tier at all. Astro Twilight, farmable in-game. I believe it drops from Kuva Guardians. It's a stance mod for Glaives. Buzzkill, farmable in-game. I believe it drops from Eidolon fights. Slash damage for your melee. Collision Force also drops in-game from Eidolon fights. Got a cosmetic here that the guy that made this tier list first put on here. Not really needed. Combo Fury, gonna go right next to Combo Killer. These glaive mods that require you to use a mod slot in your glaive for weird stats like reload speed for your pistol. Not really the best. And we have some duplicates on here. This guy's got Combo Killer on here again, so we'll put Combo Killer back there. Crash Course can farm it in-game. A lot of these are just farmable in-game, to be honest. We're just going to go ahead and blast through a lot of these. And this guy put on duplicates for some reason. Anything that's a duplicate will be going down here in bad tier. Full Contact again. Okay, so we got the Tenant Galaxian, or it's a Galaxian Vandal. So the Galaxian Vandal is definitely nice to have. And actually, there are situations where I'd recommend this over the Tenant Galaxian, such as farming Endo on the arena. Now, the Tenant Galaxian has a 4-enemy chain limit, I believe, before punch-throughs taken into account. And this thing, the Galaxian Vandal, has an AoE. So this can actually hit more enemies if they're all grouped up into Nidus Larva. Unlike the Tenant Galaxian, it can hit limited enemies. So for Endo farming specifically, this could be better, but it's very, very niche. So I'd say it's nice to have if you are looking to specifically farm Endo, but keep in mind that it's technically replaceable by other things too. But yeah, nice to have, although the Tenant Galaxian I think is definitely better for general mission gameplay. Moving on to a skin. This is a Cadus, or this is a staff skin, I believe, so just go ahead and put that there. Halakar Wraith. Now, this did get buffed with the changes to Blast procs and Electric procs. A Blast Electric Halakar Wraith with melee influence is pretty good nowadays, but I do still think that the Wolf Sledge is better. So if you want to try it out, I'd say it's probably a nice to have tier. If you like the melee influence, like throwing weapon playstyle, but again, I think the Wolf Sledge is better in my opinion, so I would say it's not a must-have. It's probably nice to have to at least try it out, But yeah, it's going to be really up to personal preference if you want to even invest into this thing. Because I invested in like a really good Riven and stuff like that, and I don't really use it that much. So it's going to be up to you. I think the power level is there if you mod it right, but if you don't, it's just mastery fodder. High voltage. I believe this is the one that you can actually. I believe this is the one that you can actually farm in game. I believe this comes from sabotage caches. Two of the mods drop in game, and two of them don't. Like for example, Jolt. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the must-have tier. High voltage comes from sabotage caches from the infested sabotage, and Jolt does not. Jolt only comes from Baro, and Jolt's really good. Jolt gives you 60% status chance and 60% electric for your pistols. That's gonna be great for an electric build, or for like a viral electric build, or for a corrosive build for that matter. So the fact that you can't get it from the caches means it's very important, and this mod always sells pretty well. So yeah, definitely get this, and maybe don't get high voltage. Moving on to the Ignis Wraith again. So as I said earlier, the Ignis Wraith, farm it elsewhere. Don't farm it from Baro because it's pretty expensive. Cosmetic. This mod, I think we already put this on here, but it drops from Eidolon Fights, the main mod. You don't need that. Mastery fodder for the Mara Detron. It only comes from Baro, so you get it from him. Mark of the Beast, another one of those thrown melee terrible mods. This is probably the best one though. On 6 melee kills within 6 seconds, increased status chance and crit chance for pistols. That works on. That used to work on Mesa's pistols. It probably still does, but still, it's bad. It's not worth using. So yeah, farmable elsewhere. We got the Opticore Vandal. If you want to do the Thermia Fractures event, this will be given to you through the Thermia Fractures event. If you don't want to do that, you can get it from Baro instead. Up to you. It's definitely going to save you some time if you get it from Baro, but it means you're not going to get the whatever they're called mods, the amalgam mods from the event. So keep that in mind. That you're going to have to just technically loot that you have not gotten from the event either. For shotgun ammo mutation or prime ammo stock, I'm going to put it in over-prepared tier. It can be kind of fun with like the Exorgist and like the Tigris, but yeah, it's not really a needed mod at all. Magazine size for shotguns, not exactly the most useful stat in the whole game, but a pretty okay stat. I'm going to put it in over-prepared tier and not bad tier. Primeval Instinct, a must-have mod. This is going to go on the top tier up here. So this one's really good because it gives you a ton of enemy radar and a ton of loot radar. The amount of enemy radar that we have in this game built, I think, like 20 or 30 meters for frames now. Combine that with this, you can see like every single enemy that's in the entire room. Not to mention all the loot as well with the loot radar. So that's very, very powerful, and I definitely recommend throwing that on there. And yeah, this might be one that you could actually pick up copies of to sell to people in the future too. It's just a really, really good mod. Prime Bane of the Corpus, like I said with my criteria earlier, it is a primed rifle Bane, so we're going to put that in nice to have, as it's part of the arbitration meta. And Prime Bane of the Corrupted. Now, for this one, I might actually put this in over-prepared tier. Unlike the other ones, we've got, Grenier, we got Grenier, Infested, and Corpus. The RBs for the Corrupted are a lot less important and a lot less meta, so I'm going to put that in over-prepared tier. If you ever want to do a min-max RB for Corrupted, I guess you should have that. But for me, I don't think I've ever equipped this mod in my Ogress, so it's not really needed. It's over-prepared tier for sure. Prime Bane of the Grenier, we already went over this one because this guy put duplicates on here, but we literally just talked about that is the first thing that was put on nice to have tier, or one of the first things. Duplicate Prime Chamber, duplicate Prime Charge Shell. Thanks, man, for putting all these on here so many times. We got Primed Chilling Grasp, giving a huge chunk of cold damage for shotguns. I'm going to go ahead and put it on over-prepared tier. It is, I don't even know if I'd say it's nice to have. If you were trying to go for like a maximum viral build or maybe a corrosive cold build, it could be nice. But the thing is, on those types of builds, you probably want some status chance, and this thing is just only cold. It gives no status chance at all. It's just a gigantic chunk of cold, and it also has a D polarity as well, so it's annoying to form up for. I'd say that it's not needed in the slightest. I don't think I ever really use this, but in the future, maybe you could want to use a corrosive cold build that does not need status chance as much, so that could be potentially there. Until that day comes, it's going on over-prepared tier, and I'm just glad it's not in bad tier. Prime Cleanse the Corpus for shotguns, over-prepared tier. Anytime you're using a Corpus Bane, it's not really, like, not most people aren't really minding for Corpus Banes on shotguns most of the time. It's like, yeah, Prophet Taker maybe, or like maybe you're doing a Corpus Disruption or something, or maybe you're doing the Belly of the Beast event until that goes away in like 2 days. These are not mods that everyone in the game needs. These are mods that you could have if you want to be over-prepared for every single mission. Another similar vein, Prime Cleanse the Corrupted, same exact description as I went with Corpus. But unfortunately for Prime Bane the Corrupted, there's no corrupted version of the Prophet Taker, so even less useful. It can be kind of okay, I guess, if you're doing a Void Cascade, because the Thrax can get corrupted nowadays, But yeah, even then, I don't think you're really going to need it. And same with Prime to cleanse the Grenier. Shotguns are not the meta for arbitrations. They're just kind of like fun to use. But yeah, this could be very nice in the Phantasma Prime for some heat procs. Maybe I put this one on nice to have tier, but again, that doesn't have to be being biased. It's really not needed at all. It's just more for people who want to be over-prepared. Prime Cleanse the Corrupted, or Prime Cleanse the Infested. I think this might be fair for me to just put this one in bad tier. I know the other ones like Cleanse, Corpus, Corrupted, and Grenier were in over-prepared tier. But like, dude, are you going to really put a Prime Banebot on your shotgun for the Infested? I'm not going to. So maybe, you could maybe put it in an over-prepared tier, but I feel like this is one that could maybe even be in bad tier, because who in their right mind is actually ever using this? Right? That's kind of how I look at it. I'll put it in over-prepared for now, but it feels wrong. Prime Cryo Rounds, definitely nice to have, because a lot of the time, now you could make a similar argument for this one with Prime Chilling Grasp, but for me, I'm running Hunter Munitions a lot of the time on my Kuva Brahma, and then throwing on this for the maximum amount of viral damage for a big damage choke. I don't care about the viral procs as much. The Hunter Munitions proc is there in case they don't just outright die. That being said, you could definitely make the argument this one's should be an over-prepared tier as well, but I just think that the rifle is more useful than the shotgun for this type of mod. And that you could definitely argue that one in the comments if you'd like to. Product Spell Corrupt, we already went over that. It's over-prepared tier, but these are just duplicates, so we're going to put them down there. Primed Expel Grenier, I think, did we already put that one on here? We did, okay, that was in the over-prepared tier for sure. So yeah, this guy did not do me any favors with all these duplicates here. Alright, Prime Fast Hands, increased reload speed for rifles. It is definitely going to be an over-prepared tier. You can run it, it's actually a good mod, but reload speed in this game can have some pretty massive diminishing returns if you throw on like more than one mod. So I'd say if you're going to mod for reload, just throw on this, or like just throw on Merciless or something. When you start jamming multiple reload sources, it gets definitely excessive, and then you only get like a little animation shaved down after all of that. But yeah, so that being said, if you want to have like the Vectis spamming shots maybe, if you want to have like a rifle spamming shots, it could work, but it's not really needed. Prime Firestorm, this one's definitely going to be in must-have tier. It's going to increase the AoE size of your explosions on rifle weapons. So that means like Kuva Ogress for meta arbitrations, Kuva Brahma for just blasting stuff down, you know, you name it. Any AoE gun that's a rifle should work with this, and it is extremely powerful. This mod actually was so OP, it got nerfed. I actually think the guy in the... Looks like the guy that made this tier list actually has the old stats. It says 66% blast radius. I think they nerfed it down since then. But yeah, it's still a must-have, guys. It's used on almost every Ogress build. Although I don't use it on my PT Ogress build, to be fair, because it doesn't need it there. But other places, it definitely does need it. It's a must-have mod. Prime Flow, another must-have mod. And in the similar argument train as the continuity, there is a mod called Archon Flow that comes from Veilbreaker that you can get. It's technically a replacement to this. But it's more mod drain on the build, and also you have to grind out Veilbreaker to get it in the first place. So, yeah, this mod, Prime Flow and Prime Continuity are on pretty much most builds in Warframe. So if you don't have these, you probably want to change that with this Baro visit. But yeah, great mod nonetheless. Prime Fulmination. Now, unlike the Prime Firestorm, I'm going to put this in nice to have tier. It's the exact same thing as Prime Firestorm, but instead of for rifles, it's for secondaries. That being said, secondaries are not the meta for arbitrations, but they are pretty good for just running through quick missions. You throw us in the Icarius Prime, you can blast through a mission really quick. So it's very nice to have because the AoE size is a lot larger. But yeah, it's not a must-have because if you don't use AoE pistols, you're not going to need it really. And also, if you're only looking for the most bare bones things to get, Prime Firestorm over this for sure. All right, we got quite a few things to go over, so let's speed up a little bit here. Duplicate of that. Okay, we got Prime Heavy Trauma, giving increased impact damage for melees. It's an over-prepared tier for sure. It can actually be pretty good on some stat stick builds, but it's not like the meta mod. It's like, oh man, if only I had some more impact on here, it would be all going so much better. That's not the case. So it's a over-prepared mod. It could easily be in bad tier, but I'm gonna put it in over-prepared just to be nice to it. Private magazine size mod for rifles. If you want to have a goofy, gigantic magazine, be my guest, but that's you being over-prepared and just kind of having some fun. Also in overprepared, primed power strength for Arcwing for Arcwings. You would think a primed power strength mod would be a must-have, but unfortunately, it is for Arcwings. So, when's the last time you were looking at the stats in your Arcwing build, like, alright, I need some more strength on here? Me personally, basically never. So, overprepared tier, if you ever want to like min-max your Arcwing build, well, actually, spoiler, there's hardly any Arcwing Arcwing mods in the first place. This is one of your only choices. So, if you want to min-max your Arcwing to like the furthest degree possible, get it, but ain't nobody really doing that, so up to you. Prime Pack Leader. This one actually got buffed. I actually think it would be a nice to have tier for me, because for this one, it used to just give a companion lifesteal link, but now that we have Overguard in this game, on melee hit, it can give your teammate can give your companion Overguard. So, for example, on Korra's Whip Claw, every time you Whip Claw with Korra, it will give your companion Overguard, because it's a melee hit technically. So very nice to have. Now, that being said, it does eat a mod slot up and a valuable companion slot on the build, so that might not be for everybody, but in some situations, it's very nice to have your companion getting Overguard every melee hit you do. So very nice for Korra, very nice for some other characters too. I'd say I'd recommend it, but it's not a must-have tier. It's a nice-to-have tier. Prime Pistol Ammunition. We already went over this. It's a over-prepared mod. Moving on to Prime Pistol Gambit. Already went over that. It's a must-have mod. Okay, so we got some duplicates on here. Okay, Prime Pressure Point. This one's gonna be a must-have mod for sure. It's basically a primed base damage mod for melees. This is going to influence your slash procs, going to influence your heavy attacks, etc., etc. It's really good, and there's limited ways to get melee damage in this game. One of the easy ways to do it is just throw this mod on there. So very, very powerful mod. And yeah, I run it on most builds on melees, as should you. Prime Quick Draw, going to be giving you some... It's the similar situation to Prime Fast Hand, a reload animation increase. Now, this can be good as... secondaries are usually utility weapons a lot of the time, that you get your shots back quicker, but yeah, not really needed if you are just trying to kill stuff fast. You don't really need to be reloading quicker. Prime Ravage, very, very good mod. I'm going to put it on must-have tier, as it's a primed critical damage mod for shotguns. So any shotgun build that is going full crit will have this. There's no galvanized crit damage mod for shotguns. There's a galvanized damage mod for shotguns. There's no galvanized crit damage mod for shotguns. That being said, if you're on a crit damage build on shotguns, you need this mod, so it's a must-have mod. Basically on every crit damage shotgun build in the game. Prime Reach, another must-have mod. Gives you extra 3 meters of range. Very nice for light attacks, very nice for heavy attacks. Does not work on glaive explosions, if you didn't know that already. But yeah, very nice one to have. You should get this if you don't have it already. Prime Regen, another must-have. We got a bunch of must-have mods here. This one's going to give you extra, a quicker respawn for your companion. So it'll be regenerating, I think, 45 seconds faster when maxed out. That means your companion will be on the field a lot more often, giving its abilities, giving you loot radar, and all that kind of good stuff. So make sure you have this one, as it is much better than normal regen. And yeah, you can also stack it with Medi Pet Kit. Actually, no, can you? No, Medi Pet Kit's for doggos. Okay, so not the same. Prime Rifle Ammo Mutation. Overprepared tier for sure. If you have a minus ammo ribbon, maybe it could be more useful to you, but it's not needed. I mean, I could even put it in bad tier because I've never seen anyone ever using this. But yeah, extra ammo can be nice sometimes. Prime Orbita Line Barrel. I'm going to, hot take right now. I know I could put this in must-have tier because this is great for Profit Taker, but I'm going to put it in nice-to-have tier. Not everybody wants to farm Profit Taker, and this is a Arcwing Gun base damage mod. Pretty much required for Profit Taker runs, but that being said, maybe you don't care about it. Maybe you want to just do the index. I know some of you guys just only want to do the index whenever I make videos on PT. If you only want to do index, you don't need this. If you want to farm credits elsewhere, you don't really need this. But if you want to have the most damage in Arcwing Gun, you do need it. So I'll put it on nice to have, but not needed, because not everyone wants to run Profit Taker. In a similar vein, Private Ammunition. Very similar to what we were just talking about with Rifle Ammunition. Who really cares? I guess the Comb. It could be good in the Comb, technically. But yeah, the Comb's not the most popular weapon in 2024. Prime Slip Magazine, giving magazine size for pistols. Another thing that's overprepared tier. If you want to min-max your pistol to have more magazine size, you of course would use this, but yeah, not everyone's going to use this. We got some dupe mods down here. Easy dupes. Prime Sniper Ammunition, same exact situation as Shotgun Ammunition. If you need more ammo, you're running that mod. But usually people just run Vigilante Supplies. Vigilante Supplies is usually just better than this, to be honest. Prime Tactical Pump, giving reload speed for shotguns. Overprepared tier. There are some shotguns that actually could use this pretty well, like the Exorgist. But yeah, another damage mod might just be better in that slot, to be honest. Prime Target Cracker, giving increased critical damage, a must-have mod. Just like Prime Pistol Gambit, crit chance and crit damage both primed. Very good for meta DPS built on pistols. Got a couple more rows here. Let's hope that we don't go over any dupes. So we got some Prisma Dual Cleavers. They're going to definitely be in Collectors and Mastery Fodder tier. They're really good melee weapons, but at the end of the day, we have Incarnon melee weapons in this game now, like the Incarnon Dual Ickers and the Incarnon whatever I'm forgetting about right now. These things are not Incarnon, but they're good stats. So if you want to get them for Mastery or Collector's Item, be my guest. Prisma Dual Curians, honestly, anything that is not farmable elsewhere will be Mastery Fodder tier. These are actually pretty good, but yeah, they're heavy Arcwing guns. They require the call down. The Grattler's better. they're here for a reason. Okay, they used to be worse, but they're better now. Duplicate Prisma Gorgon, Prisma Garcata, going to be in the collector's tier. Anything that gives you mastery, guys, that is not farmable elsewhere, you should get, because you have to wait until Baro brings it. Actually, Machete Wraith might be farmable elsewhere as well, but not sure about that. Prisma Grinlock, it's good, but yep, you heard the story. Mastery Fodder Collector tier. Machete Wraith is a dupe. Prisma Obex, Mastery Fodder Collector tier. Prisma Skana. Now this one's actually nice to have tier. I'm gonna put this one above the normal stuff. We're gonna put the Prisma Skana in nice to have tier. It is one of the best swords in the game, and there is an Incarnon for this. You want to farm Endo on the arena with this thing, get a Riven for it, maybe take out the stance, do some nice auto melee. And yeah, pretty disgusting. It's a very powerful sword. If you don't have a good melee weapon for the Steel Path, try this one out. The Prisma Skana, very nice choice. Prisma Tetra, there is a Kuba or a Tenet Tetra, keep that in mind. So you don't really need to get this one unless you want to get for Mastery Fodder. A pretty underwhelming weapon. Duplicate. Prisma Veritrux, a gigantic Arcwing sword. I'm gonna put in Mastery Fodder tier because it's an Arcwing sword. You can't use Arcwing swords in mission, unless you're in an Arcwing mission, that is. Duplicate Prova Vandal. Okay, we got Pummel for pistols. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that one in bad tier. Actually, it's farmable elsewhere tier, technically. You can farm this impact mod from Eidolon fights, I believe. So if you want to get it, that's where you get it. You don't get it from Baro for ducats, that's for sure. Scattering Inferno, actually it comes from Spy missions. Very good mod, but yeah, you don't need it from Baro. Same with Scorch. Hopefully we won't have a dupe of Scorch on here, but we might. Shell Shock. This one drops from the infested salvage caches like we talked about earlier. So you can get that there. It's a very good mod for Shell Shock. Split Flights. This one's nice to have, but it's kind of like a novelty item, honestly. I think I'm going to put it in collector tier. This mod replaces your multi-shot mod on bows. On hit, increase multi-shot 100%, and it's stacked to 4 times, so it gives you minus accuracy. It's pretty funny, and it can give you a lot of arrows when you fire it off, but it's more of a collector's item if anything. It's not really like something that I'm using on a daily basis at all. I usually am using galvanized multi-shot or just like something else. Alright, we got the Supra Vandal. It's above Mastery Fodder, but it is a collector item or a mastery item, so I'd say just get it there. Maybe an Incarnon for this someday could be kind of nice, but yeah, until then, not happening. Duplicate Super Serration, drops from Eidolon fights. Temple Royale drops from Bursas, I believe, so you don't need to get it from him, but if you want to, sure. Thermite Rounds, I think we have a dupe on that one, but yeah, it's farmable from Spy Vaults, so not really needed to get from Baro. Random Twinkle Cosmetic, the Vastalock. For this one, I think I am going to put it a little bit above Mastery tier. This is a shotgun melee that can be very nice with Shattering Impact. It's actually pretty fun to use for DPS as well. It's a very unique weapon, but it's not like, I wouldn't put it in must-have tier. I put it in nice-to-have tier as it's pretty powerful and fun, but I would be lying to you if I said I use this thing on like a weekly basis, if that. It's just a slash shotgun that has lots of pellets, very good for Shattering Impact, getting lots of armor removal. But yeah, not needed for everybody, especially for me. Vermilion Storm is farmable in-game. This comes from Kuva Guardians, I believe, so not very hard to farm, but a good stance mod. The Viper Wraith. Now, I think this one is not farmable in-game, besides from Baro, but maybe I'm thinking about a different weapon. This one, I believe, does not come from invasion missions. It only comes from Baro, but either way, Mastery Fodder, if that. Volcanic Edge is a dupe, comes from Spy missions. Voltaic Strike. Now, this one is going to be in nice-to-have / must-have tier, as this one is going to be one of the mods that actually comes from Baro only, does not come from the salvage or from the infested salvage missions. So if you want to get this for melee 60% electric, 60% status chance, you should get it definitely. All right, got the Volcar Wraith. This thing is, I actually used to really like it a lot, but it's Mastery Fodder tier. It is a impact focused sniper in 2024. Zylock Normal. We have a Zylock Prime, so it's definitely Mastery Fodder nowadays. Yeah. Zylock Prime's pretty decent. Okay, now we have some of the new items down here. We've got the Prisma Oma. I would put it in above Mastery tier, but I'm going to be honest right now, guys. I use the Praetos. I don't use this thing. The Praetos gives you increased movement speed. The Prisma Oma is good. You know, it will be nice. We'll put it in nice-to-have tier. This thing is good, but I'm not going to act like I use it all the time. It is powerful. It's got good stats. Blah, blah, blah. It's better than the normal Oma, but it's not really a must-have. It's better than Mastery. The fact that I put the Prisma Skana and the Vastalock in nice-to-have tier is what's making me put this up here. So, yeah. Might be a little bit of a controversial choice, but either way. Prime Convulsion. Okay, this one might be controversial here. put Prime Convulsion in the must-have tier. Why is Prime Heated Charge a nice to have and Prime Convulsion a must-have? It comes down to the pistol builds in this game and how to get the most damage. If you put on Pistol Pestilence for a 60-60, and you put on a Prime Convulsion mod, that's a huge chunk of corrosive damage and a little bit of status chance too. What does heat combine into? It combines into gas damage, it combines radiation damage. Radiation damage is not as important anymore at all, but corrosive is still very important. So yeah, this one's more important than this one, and this one's actually newer than that one. So I highly recommend getting Prime Convulsion for like Mesa's pistols, and for like whatever other pistol you're using that has a corrosive built on it. Very, very powerful mod, and I was actually surprised they even made this mod because it's so good. Prisma Lens, I'm going to try to keep my bias out of this one. I'm going to put it in Mastery tier because the Kuva Brahma does exist. The Prisma Lens should have been a Tenet lens. There's no built-in element on this. It's got base 50% crit chance, but yeah, it has bad ammo, has bad fire rate. It's got bad other stuff to it, forgetting about. The Kuva Brahma is just better. If this thing was a Tenet lens, it'd be a different story, but yeah, it's not. It is a Prisma lens, and I kind of wish it was Tenet, if I haven't made that clear enough. The newest Prime mod, Prime Deadly Efficiency. Okay, so how do I put this? I don't even think that you'd be over-prepared to get this one. I think this mod is just bad. I think the newest Prime mod Baro brought is just bad. I'm going to put it in bad tier. Not only because it doesn't currently work, but because it also, when it does end up being patched to work properly, I ain't going to be using this one. Well, right now, it currently doesn't let you run a crit chance mod when you have this equipped, and it lets you run normal deadly efficiency and prime deadly efficiency. It's just, it's on reload from empty increased damage. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to put it in bad tier. I'm not going to put it in over prepared tier. I don't even know what you'd be using this to prepare for. But yeah, yikes. Prime Redirection, going from terrible mod to very good Prime mod. We got a must-have new Prime mod here, Prime Redirection. This one's going to give you a huge chunk of shields. Very nice for longer shield gating. If you're not doing like a shield gate build, it'll give you like a longer duration of your shield gate whenever it does break. Great for your shield tanking builds with like DR and all that stuff. It's just nice when anything is involving shields. Every Hilder player in the game better have this mod if you want the maximum shield. So yeah, really good one here. It is actually new as of this year. So yeah, if you haven't been playing for a while, you might not even have this one. And for the last couple things, we got Prime Dual Rounds. This is going to be, it's an Arcwing gun mod. I'm going to put it in nice to have tier. Because, like I said earlier, I put Prime Revito Line Barrel in the nice-to-have tier because not everyone's doing PT. Prime Dual Rounds increased multi-shot for Arcwing guns. If we ever get like an Arcwing raid boss fight, maybe it could be nice. But until then, you could actually do a lot of work with just normal dual rounds. And I run this all the time, but not everyone wants to be running the things I'm running all the time. So yeah, nice-to-have tier. You could definitely get away with not having this, though. And for the last couple things here, looks like we got a dupe on Jolt. Okay, actually, I think we're done, actually. I think that was the last item in the whole thing. So yeah. Taking a look at all the stuff we have now, ignoring all the dupes, we have our entire Baro tier list. The must-have stuff at the top, nice-to-have stuff down second tier, mastery/collector items on the third tier, things that are farmable elsewhere on the fourth tier, over-prepared, like, okay, I'm going to have every situation covered here on this tier, and then duplicates/bad stuff at the bottom tier. So sorry about the duplicates, guys. Either way, like a lot of this stuff is not very that great. But some of the stuff is good, like Prime Pistol Gambit, we have that in must-have tier, and then the duplicate down here tier. So, hope you guys found this video fun and helpful. If you have any opinions on some of these mods, like you think the placement should be different, let me know in the comments down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Appreciate all the support. Take it easy. Bye!